We're in mid-bathroom window, and every time I have to walk to the garage, I have to pass block him over and over again, 50 yards.
Me and Maddie me and the Ram just getting bullied by Maddie.
Good.
Who gets it worse?
Me.
That's the question.
Kenneth.
Joe Thuney is not a Kansas City Chiefs chief anymore. They have traded him. There's a lot of decisions that they're going to have to make on the offensive side of the ball. Let's talk about them all.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Welcome into a live Matter Day edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our tremendous partners in possible here at KC Sports Network. I'm Matt Swanson here with Matt Hamilton and Matt Lane for Matter Days. Matthew Lane, how we doing? What farm animal have you beat up in your farm this week?
Well, nothing this week. The Ram has semi learned his place. We still have to duel every now and then on my way to the garage throughout the day, but he knows what's up now. So that's good. I got a few contract offers in off of that video, so that's nice. Who needs huddle these days? Am I right? And so, yeah, besides that, though, the rest of the animals, they're doing good. I'm just, fighting a bathroom renovation right now, and it is kicking my ass, unlike the Ram. So that's where my life is. Hamilton, we are happy to have you here. Hopefully you are not getting beat up by a bathroom renovation at the same time.
I'm happy to be here too, and fortunately I am not. I did send that video along to PETA. I'm still waiting for their comment, but we'll see.
We're good. No.
Listen, I got plenty of evidence that says that the Ram started it, okay? If you're listening, PETA, the Ram started it.
Wait, could we possibly keep Maddie from tweeting ever again? Like, is this a possibility? I don't know.
You don't think I have burners? You don't think I have burners on deck already?
It's probably where you get your likes. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us today.
I don't got very many of them then.
We appreciate you hanging out with us. Very big news day for the Kansas City Chiefs, as they have traded all-pro guard and their team player of the year in 2024, Joe Thuney, to the Chicago Bears for a 4th-round pick. Big news this morning. I know we have it all covered with, we've had the breaking news team, Tucker D. Franklin, a Blazer. We've had that football show on it. And now we're going to get a chance to have some discourse, have some discussion about that as well. So I'll start with you, Maddie Lane. When you first heard the news, what were your thoughts?
Well, I said, typical Chiefs making a move at a very random time of the day. I know Tucker's about to ask if I'm ready to go live for the breaking news team, and I currently am not because it is 9 a.m. And the Chiefs decide to make a move. So that was my first thought. Then after that, it was just trying to piece together what was going on here, right? We talked earlier this week and like last week about what the process might be here with Trey Smith now looking or under the franchise tag and coming back, and how this maybe means they know they don't have an answer for the left tackle spot. So they're trying to be better at these 4 positions, but it was really expensive. And now they go out and they move Joe Thuney, so they're not as expensive anymore. But now you are taking away the most consistent probably, and probably the best, if not second best player along that offensive line, and creating another question mark next to the left tackle. It's already a question mark. So it's just, we're clearly on step 2 of whatever this offseason plan is for the Chiefs. So we still got to wait for it to come together, but it's definitely going a weird direction compared to what I thought about a week ago, Hamilton.
Yeah, absolutely. I was definitely surprised when I saw that come through. We were in the middle of our morning production meeting when it happened, talking through our Osa Digizua interview, and that popped up. And yeah, it was not something I expected at all. As you said, with how much he's meant to this team and how consistent he's been really being the anchor of that offensive line, and an offensive line that needs help and needs fixing. You would think, trading away the best player on it might not, be the best recipe for success there. But again, there's clearly some plan at play here, like you said. And if there's one person, I trust not for it to be a cop out. But I just want to reserve judgment fully until we see how the rest of this plays out and what the plan is, because, you can't look at every move in a vacuum. Every move is connected, and clearly, they needed to clear some cap space. This is a way to do it. Get a little younger on the line. I'm not gonna jump ahead. I know Kent hates when I jump ahead on the little sidebar, so I'm not gonna talk about anything about what's next. But I'm interested to see how this plays out. I'm waiting to see that before I completely judge this move.
No, I think that's entirely fair. That is, by the way, it's Matt Swanson, not Kent, but yeah, get it right. But no, I definitely, and this team has made hard decisions over the course of their dynasty that they have here. Again, the best 3-year stretch in the history of the sport of football, even though it fell short just now. This team has made a lot of hard decisions en route to where they're at now. They've nailed a lot of them. Like, this team deserves the benefit of the doubt on a situation like this. And I think part of the problem with all of this is, I think there's a lot of sentimental value and appreciation for Joe Thuney. Right. And so
as there should be.
As 1,000% should be. He is a tremendous chief, and he has exemplified what it means to be a chief. And he has been a leader in a room that desperately needed it when he stepped in, because this offensive line, he came on the heels of that line being in shambles at the Super Bowl and against Tampa Bay. And he's a big piece of that happening. And then, he just decides he's going to step up and, when this team needs him the most, and just step in and try to play left tackle. And he's going to go and do that. The sentimentality piece of it, I think, is what is a little jarring, I think, for Chiefs fans, because, of all he's meant to the team. And he's literally just got the award as the team's MVP, that, the team's most valuable player, literally week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. And here we are, and all of a sudden he's got, actually, I think that's a curse, right? I think that's like a curse that players that wind up getting that wind up somewhere else the next season or something crazy like that. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to say goodbye to him, but I think it was the right move. And especially with Trey Smith being back, they're kind of picking the young guy, right? They're just, they're choosing to take the young guy. They're choosing to take the young interior offensive lineman without, Joe Thuney's contract is up after this season. It was a contract year. I didn't expect the Chiefs to re-sign both, and have Creed Humphrey on the books too. You can't pay top of market for 3 interior offensive linemen, and so I hypothesized a week ago maybe this is in the cards. It was. It's still surprising, still jarring that they're doing it.
Yeah. And it does make the Trey Smith tag make more sense now too. So when we were talking about it at the time, it's how do they fit all these things? Makes that move make more sense, which again is why you can't look at any of these decisions in a vacuum.
Yeah, and it kind of ties into the next part of the rundown. I'm not trying to jump ahead, as we've established. Kent / Matt Swanson over there doesn't like that, but
it's very irritated.
The curious part about this is okay, you think going forward, we talked about it plenty, there's not a lot out there available for left tackle. The Chiefs continue for years now, since going back to essentially Eric Fisher suffering that injury and having to replace him, have been we need a long-term solution at left tackle. We need a long-term solution at left tackle. We have to fix left tackle, so on and so forth. It's interesting in this moment to say, okay, the one player on this team that is probably the most beneficial for helping develop a left tackle, we are now going to trade away while we're trying to find one. Now, obviously, that I don't hate the move. I don't think it's a terrible move. I think it's probably very smart, especially if you use any of the money that you are saving, the $60 million that is coming off the books, to improve your team elsewhere, specifically on offense. Like, it's a good forward-facing move. It's just an interesting in conjunction with, hey, we also are trying to find a left tackle that's probably not going to be a free agent that's ready to like step in right away and be good, because there's literally only one of those guys available and he probably goes back to the Ravens. So like, what are you doing with a young guy or a developmental tackle now playing next to another developmental guard? Like, that's a little bit of a long drive to really sell me on like how it's going to work out.
I am the ultimate teleprompter guy sometimes. Sorry that I like the rundown. I like the lists.
When we first started the rundown, like Tucker asked us this like a year ago, and he's like, do you think this is a good idea? And I immediately was like, yeah, no, I think that people will love it. They'll love seeing what's coming next. And little did I know the monster that I was going to create.
My brain was like, I can't go anywhere now. We can't just sidebar. We have to stick to the rundown. And I'm just beholden.
I guess
to
it
that.
stopped Kit from sending me a bunch of random Google documents that I put pictures in instead, though.
Oh, Hamilton. Oh, we got to show you some of those, man. He does some. He's this buddy. He throws anything. Never mind.
Yeah, you're making this weird now.
Yeah, I know. That's why I just like.
It's just usually pictures of Breland Speaks or Ron Parker.
Yeah,
Ron Parker.
Yeah. And yeah.
Poor Ron Parker.
Yeah, that poor guy. So. Are
we ready to move to the next?
We are ready to move to the next
trade
thing.
compensation. How do we feel about the compensation? I did see that question came somewhere in the chat from Wyota. Yeah. How do we feel about the compensation for trading Joe Thuney? And then just like also like, do you guys think that, I mean, we all think this means more's coming, right? So it's a two-part question, actually. Let's start with this. What do you guys feel about the compensation for it from getting a future 4th round pick from the Chicago Bears?
Go Hamilton.
I mean, I think that's about what to expect given the state of his contract, the cap hit, the age. He's going to be 33 this upcoming season. I think that's about right. I know it seems underwhelming. These trades, these player for pick trades always seem underwhelming, but again, you have to factor in the age, the contract situation, all of that. It all is such a huge part of it. So I think to me that feels about right.
I think they did very well to get a 2026 4th round pick. And I think people are a little bit stunned by that. But like, I think they did well to get a 4th round selection. And I know they're deferring gratification until 2026 on this, but I think I'd rather have a 4th round pick in 2026 than a 5th round pick in 2025. Yeah. I'd rather get that pick in next year's class, see what we got going on there. Like, we kind of know what this stacks up as. It's fine. It's a fine draft, but it's not an overwhelmingly great draft. And so I like the idea of having future assets, to use. Next year's going to be another big year too for this team, because the 2022 draft class, the Bills coming due on them. And so if they can accumulate some assets with the compensatory formula, they can accumulate some assets via trades like this. Like, this is beneficial to them. I like that they got a future pick. I don't want to root against the Bears the same way that I've rooted against the Titans and the 49ers recently.
Why not?
I'm rooting for Poles. I like Ryan Poles. I like Ben Johnson. I kind of want to see the Bears do well. I think it'd be a fun story to see them do well. So I am
kind of want to see Ben Johnson not do well. I don't know. I have nothing against Ben Johnson in particular, although I think he got a little full of himself, turning down a bunch of jobs and stuff. But then, like, I also think that, he kind of runs like the NFL's version of a college offense. Like, he runs like the NFL's version of the Art Briles offense, where it's just a bunch of goofy stuff that you can't prepare for. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see how this goes. My second part to this question is, do we think that do we think the Chiefs, that they now have saved like $16 million from this? They obviously still need to move more money around, from whether it's extending or reworking Travis Kelce's contract or taking money from Mahomes' contract, like whatever it's going to be. Do we think that this move for Thuney is just so that they can bring back a Nick Bolton or a Justin Reed and call it good? Or do we think that this is going towards trying to help the offense get better in other areas?
It's a great question. To me, it's still going to be hard for them to do a whole lot more. There have to be more moves coming, like you said, because they're still not in a great cap situation. But that was my first thought, was it makes it more likely now that they can bring one of these other guys back, whether it's Bolton or Reed, because that was looking pretty much impossible before the deal. And I think, those are two important pieces to this team. And I think that's where that's where I really see them going. It's going to be hard. There are going to be some depth pieces maybe that they bring in free agency, but it's going to be hard for them to really win any type of bidding war with any player of that caliber. So, if I had to guess, I would say it's more likely, yeah, they use that savings to retain one of these guys.
I think there's a better chance that one of those guys is back. I do think that they're going to use those resources that they now have. And again, like, I'll just tell you, I actually wrote an article about like how I could see the offseason going after Trey Smith. It didn't involve trading Joe Thuney. So like, still read it, please. Like, it's still interesting. There's a lot of stuff that applies. And I think there's some stuff that the Chiefs can do creatively to build their roster back. If they restructure Patrick Mahomes like the same number that they did last year, they're going to, even if Trey Smith is on the tag, they have $26 million in cap space to work with in 2025. So just operating with Thuney gone and Patrick Mahomes at that number, like, there's some wiggle room for them to sign a long-term deal and fit it in the cap, and then have some flexibility to create, some one-year deals and some, bring a guy like they could bring Hollywood, Charles Omenihu back, Humphreys if they want it. All kinds of options. Yeah. They have some options at their disposal. So, I think they'll make some moves. I'm just fascinated to see if it's moves to bring people back or moves from the outside. Did you have?
Oh, you're waiting for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just for me, if this doesn't coincide with getting better on offense somewhere else, I think it's not a mistake, because I do think it's got to be a forward-facing move. But like, if this doesn't coincide with getting better at left tackle or getting better at the wide receiver position or a running back, if this has to be paired with getting better somewhere else, or it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because then you're just putting Patrick Mahomes' health at even bigger jeopardy than it was last year, which is literally the engine that makes this offense go, and probably even more so next year, judging by the way this team is currently looking with the amount of free agents they're losing. So I think if you make this move, it better not be to tread water and bring back the same guys. It better be to get better somewhere. And that to me doesn't mean, we were able to bring back, no offense to these guys, but it doesn't mean we're able to bring back a Nick Bolton and a Tershawn Wharton, and that's an even trade for losing Joe Thuney, if that makes sense. It better be getting better than what they were somewhere, or I'm like, now I'm starting to give a little bit of a side eye to the process.
It's going to be hard to do, though.
I know. It's tight. No, the money's tight, unless they go full on with the bank of Mahomes and Kelsey's willing to do some kind of reworking of his deal, so he's not hitting for $19 million this year. Like, they have to make the space somewhere, so it's not easy. It's just, don't make the move then if you don't have that plan. It's just kind of my thought process.
Well, if they extend Trey too, they're in great shape. If they extend Trey, they got $40 million in cap space.
That's true.
So like, cash is different, but cap space too. There's a lot of questions that are going to remain for the rest of this offseason. What's next for the offensive line? We'll talk about that right after this.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story. Like Bryan Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Bryan Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Joe Thuney is a Chicago Bear. Trey Smith is back on the franchise tag, potentially a long-term deal. We'll see how that goes. But that has left a lot of questions on the offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs, specifically, the entire left side of it. Center, right guard, right tackle, you feel good about heading into 2025. But now there are some big questions at left guard and at left tackle. Left guard, I think, Matty Lane, I do think the most likely scenario for the Chiefs at left guard is going to be Kingsley Suamataia kicking inside and playing the left guard position for the Chiefs in 2025. Do you think that if you're a betting man, you feel like that's pretty good odds that he's going to be the guy?
Yeah, sometimes I think we get so caught up in calling this combine time and time up to the draft the lying period that when you're getting beat over the head with a team just telling you kind of the truth, that you want to look the other way and think you're being tricked. And you go back and listen to Veach or Reed or anything that anybody has said about him leading up to this point. It's been like, hey, Andy Heck thinks he's got a killer upside as a guard. Hey, we liked him at guard. Hey, he performed well at guard. It's like, how many times can they tell you that about Kingsley before we're just kind of like, oh, maybe he's going to be a guard. And the whole point that we all thought was maybe they're going to try to move him to the right side. He has played right tackle before, so he's played on both sides. Maybe it'll be the right side to replace Trey. And then Trey comes back and it's like, okay, well, now what's the plan? It's a little confusing. Well, they just opened the door wide open. We don't need to talk about drafting a guard. I don't think we need to talk about Hunter Norzad having a chance to compete for this job. Like, it's Kingsley, I do believe is their plan. Like, I don't think it's like an option. I think that's their goal. That's their plan of what they have going into this. If something changes, something changes. But like, I think right now they've kind of been beating us over the head with, we like him at guard. Please listen to us. And, just a lot of people don't want to listen right now because we think it's lying season.
Yeah, and I think that factors into all of this too. I think if they don't, again, conjecture to a point, educated guess, but if they don't feel good about Kingsley at guard, I don't know that they make this move either, because again, it creates another hole in this offensive line that you now have to find a solution for. So I do think that factored in here. And I know some people roll their eyes at that because there were so many rough moments with him at left tackle, but it is, we see it all the time where guys are just not NFL tackles and they turn into pretty good NFL guards. So I wouldn't be totally shocked either if we are able to see that happen for Kingsley. But I do want to say, I can't wait to see Joe Thuney catch a touchdown pass next year and play for a true offensive genius like Ben Johnson. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. Is he playing tackle for them?
No, they're gonna wildcat.
Yeah,
they're gonna put Thuney in the wildcat.
You have a Joe Thuney. You find ways to get him the ball.
You're gonna split him out, and they're gonna have him throw a shovel pass.
Yeah,
left-handed.
Give him an old spinneroonie.
In the NFC Championship game.
In the NFC Championship, down 7
to an offensive tackle.
Hey, it was our 2-point call. We have to call it. And
listen, they got Jonah Jackson and Joe Thuney for a reason, okay? The games those two can run with the ball in their hands. Ben Johnson comes from somewhere where you have, 2 elite ball carriers in the backfield. And so he's made sure to secure those with Thuney and Jackson here. Okay. Kingsley Suamataia turned 22 a month and a half ago. Yeah. This is a young kid, and he's like me.
The Chiefs tried to throw him out there, and if it stuck, that would have been tremendous for this team and their outlook at the tackle position, which is crucial moving forward. But I think we've closed the book too quickly on a guy that is going to be 2 years younger than some of the players that are drafted this year. This is a very young prospect. And so I do think we get, we're super dismissive of, okay, he did not look good at tackle, but guess what? They'll watch week 18 against the Denver Broncos. Our guy, Nick Jacobs, he has a cut up of every rep of Kingsley Suamataia playing left guard against the Denver Broncos in week 18. And there's some good stuff in there. He looks a lot more comfortable there. He looks a lot more capable there. He actually handled games well. He did some good things that I get why the team would say that they're excited about Kingsley Suamataia at left guard, because I think there's some good moments in that tape. So it's a small sample size to base it off of, but I get the logic on the move. You're creating a runway for your second round pick last year to play. You're creating cap space. You're recuperating assets, and you're picking the young guard over the old guard. So I think Kingsley's the left guard in 2025. I'd be surprised if it's anything else. Left tackle's where I think is it's a lot more questions, and for me personally, I feel like the Chiefs have to be ultra aggressive now at left tackle. Like they can't just run it back with DJ Humphries, hoping it's, he's back to normal. Like I don't feel like that's the best business move for them to simply sign DJ Humphries. They have to be ultra aggressive. I think they got to put the foot on the gas pedal in trying to solve the left tackle position now, Hamilton.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, as you kind of alluded to earlier, Maddie, the name that has been circulating today is Ronnie Stanley. And it's hard for me to imagine that as a realistic possibility. As you said, it sounds like the Ravens are working to bring him back. That seems where things are trending. But even if he does hit the open market, are you outbidding New England for him with their $127 million in cap space? And again, it depends on his priorities too. Can you get close enough that he can say, hey, play for the Chiefs, I have a shot at finally winning a ring? That could be enough to draw him in. But it's hard for me to imagine that they can get in that ballpark if it's an all-out bidding war for Ronnie Stanley on the open market.
Yeah, and like that's the hard part, right? Like Ronnie Stanley's the guy, the only guy. There's not any other option.
Yeah.
Alaric Jackson got paid, and I don't think he even fit what the Chiefs want to do at offensive tackle or like what they look for. But like he was the only other like plus starting left tackle out there. And so now to this whole concept of we are assuming that Kingsley is getting that first crack at left guard. You don't want a rookie playing next to that. You don't need a developmental left tackle that's trying to learn the Chiefs system playing next to that. Like you want a kind of stabilizing force or a stabilizing player next to Kingsley so that he's in the best position to grow as a guard. But also because if you're bringing somebody new, it's going to be ups and downs. It's going to take some time for them to get used to what the Chiefs are asking because it is quite a bit different than a lot of other teams out of their tackles. So it's just, they've really limited what they can, not what they can do, but like they've kind of limited themselves here on a little bit. Cause like you can't put, like I said, you just can't put a developmental rookie left tackle from pick 31 from this draft out there next to Kingsley and say, okay, go protect Patrick Mahomes blindside, the two of you the entire season. You can't really go out there and get a journeyman left tackle or somebody's backup left tackle that maybe played in a couple games filling in for injury. Be like, okay, if you're now a starter for this team that's going to ask you to do a more difficult job than what you were doing for, let's say, the 49ers before, and now you have to come in and play next to this second-year player playing guard for the first time, oh, you guys have to protect for, like, I don't know. They just put themselves in a really hard spot to figure out left tackle because they do need a stabilizing player there, and there's one available.
It's like we've talked, and I've spent so much time, and my brain's been going through this whole offseason trying to figure out the paths and how this thing kind of, this entire offseason, and like one domino falls and now you kind of see the vision for the next thing. I feel like this has been such an open-ended offseason in my mind before the Trey Smith news, right? And Trey Smith was the first domino. And then you kind of go through some of the scenarios. Okay, what could happen now? We've seen Thuney. I think the path to how this thing makes the most sense has narrowed significantly, and it's veteran tackle, and it's veteran investment in tackle. And it's like, you're right. One tackle makes a ton of sense in Ronnie Stanley. Outside of that, unless there's some trade out there that you feel comfortable with. I mean, I don't know how I feel if it's Dan Moore and Kingsley Suamata'i on the left side. You know?
Not great.
I don't know.
I mean, the Steelers have tried to draft over him for 3 straight years. Like, that should tell you all you need to know, right? And the Steelers' offensive line hasn't been good, and they've tried to draft somebody to take his place. So, under this pathway, like, I'm with you. There's other players out there that have better starting experience than whatever the Chiefs have at left tackle currently on their roster. So, like, they could get better at left tackle than what they currently have or what they even had, for a lot of last year. But now that you're putting a much a not as good guard in, at least for sure this year, from going from Joe Thuney to Kingsley, like, you need to get better at left tackle. And I don't know if that guaranteed option is there. And then we're also dealing with a new system, a new guy next to him. So this comes down to me is it almost feels like this is just pretty clear cut and dry. It's Donovan Smith or DJ Humphries, come on down. At least you know the system. I said a stabilizing force. Like, no, you're not getting a consistently good left tackle next to him, but you're getting somebody that knows the system. You're getting somebody that can at least mentally help Kingsley as he tries to figure out this left guard thing and try to make it work. So like, it almost feels like it's swing for the fences, like a Ronnie Stanley or a trade that we don't know about on the outside. And if you can't get that, don't try to hit this middle ground of a Dan Moore type player. Just go ahead and bring back the guy that knows the system, as at least they can offer Kingsley something that no other free agent can.
Yeah, you're right, Maddie. That seems to make the most sense in a realistic world. If they're not able to, I think if the big swing would most likely be on the trade market. If they're not able to land that makes the most sense. And there is like, I know it was kind of disastrous the way it ended up working out, but there is some intrigue to DJ Humphries. I mean, he's joining a team mid-season off a catastrophic injury. Not a great position to be put in with a full off season. He's gotten his familiarity with the system with the full off season. There could be something there. You don't want to bank on that by any means, but there's significant upside there compared to what we saw last season. Again, not the most inspiring thing, but again, you can only deal with the options that you have. You can't, unfortunately, this is kind of the hand that they're dealt right now.
I'll ask. So if the Chiefs go the DJ Humphries, Donovan Smith route, I'd be totally cool with them drafting a left tackle in the first round, but giving that left tackle runway to develop a little bit. And if he's ready, he's ready. And if he's not, he's not. I'd be paying attention to left tackle still if the Chiefs are in a situation where it's DJ Humphries back on a 1-year deal. I think you just try to get out ahead of the problem for once, And I do think a Humphries or a Don Smith, I get what you're saying, a stabilizing force for Kingsley as he develops. But I'd Connerly's someone like that, give him a year to develop, give him a year in the system. Like, I think they should try to get out in front of it as best they can. And so like a tackle investment in round 1 is not going to be problematic for me if they do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that a DJ Humphries contract or a Donovan, if they want to go Donovan Smith instead, like I know he's weird because he was out of the football last year with the hip injury, but like whatever it is, like, right, I don't think that rules out going tackle and draft. I don't think it rules out signing 2 tackles. I don't think it rules out going DJ Humphries and, hey, Jedrick Wills, do you want to come on over here for a year contract, a prove it year? Here's a guy that's like 25 years old, had a kind of promising rookie year, and then just couldn't find his footing with the Cleveland Browns there, or a Jalen Moore who was backing up Trent Williams. I think flashed some. I don't know if I love his fit for the system, but like if you want to pay one of those types of guys a 1-year, incentive laden deal like the Chiefs love to do, and then also do the same thing to DJ Humphries and the best man wins, the best man gets the job. Sure. Like have at that. You don't have to throw just one name at there. They can definitely put a couple names out there, whether it's in free agency, whether it's in the draft. It's just, again, I'm trying to figure out how do you put Kingsley in the best situation to succeed at left guard while also getting better at left tackle. And like, it's a real narrow pathway, like you said at the start.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're excited to bring Hammy's burning questions back. I can't wait for it. We're going to take a break really quick, and then we'll do that.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
Appreciate everyone hanging out with us on a Matter Day. And I'm excited to bring Hammy's burning questions back. We did this last week. We had a good time with it. Hamilton has some questions. We're gonna try to answer them. We're gonna see what he's got for us today. So Hamilton, what do you got?
I just hope I can live up to all that hype and all that build up. I love picking you guys' brain about the draft because you guys just dig so deep there and have so much great insight. So I'm going to kind of focus on that. The combine, I know you guys talked a little bit about the combine earlier in the week, but I still have some questions and things I want to know. So from each of you guys, one player who surprised you the most at the combine in a good way.
Ooh. I think Armand Membu just completely just exceeded all expectations physically and in his on-field performance to a point where there's not even worth discussing or considering that he might wind up in Kansas City. Armand Membu, of course, is the offensive tackle out of Missouri, and he is going to go very, very high in this draft at an unrealistically high number for the Kansas City Chiefs to be even competitive. He's gone. Get him out of your mind. I watched him perform, watched him run, watched the tape, all of it. I think it's over. Like, the chances of getting Armand Membu, I think, are gone for Kansas City. I think he's going to go extremely high.
I've seen mocks with him in the top 5.
Yeah,
post combine mocks. It's unbelievable how fast he's risen.
Size, frame, tape, testing. Like, sorry, there's not much to not like about him.
Yeah.
He's aced the process.
Yeah.
He was a great performance. I don't know if that one surprised me. I mean, I guess like he ran faster than I thought he would for his size, but I thought he was a super athlete. So I don't know if I'd say that one surprised me. I'm going to give you a twofer. I'll stick offensive tackle real quick. And we'll also go to another local team. Kansas's Logan Brown, their right tackle. Just seeing him in drills, I hadn't really watched a lot of him outside of just like generally seeing KU on and hoping they lose. And I wasn't really paying much attention to what their right tackle is doing. But watching him go through the drills and like do all the testing and stuff, I was like, oh, he can move pretty well. And he's a pretty big, like thick, dense guy. Watched some film afterwards. He was impressive there. Sent me to the film. And I actually kind of like him for like a mid rounds, like swing on a tackle if a team's out there and willing to work on his footwork a good bit. But the biggest one to me was Matthew Golden, putting up a 4.29. Like, I think he made a real competition for wide receiver 1. I like Golden. I was pretty early on Golden in the year, like right when Bond was starting to be in and out of the lineup. I was like, Golden is the only reason that this Texas passing attack does anything. He's really good. Why does no one talk about him? And so the hype caught up to him, but it was still like, oh, he's wide receiver 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. Well, he goes out there and runs this really fast time. Teteroa McMillan doesn't run at all. And so now you might have a legitimate competition for wide receiver 1 just because of what he was able to go out there and put on.
And it's wild. I mean, we were talking about it when we went through those combine props. It was supposed to be a 2-man race between Isaiah Bond and Aaron Smith for that top 40 time, and Golden comes in out of nowhere and just crushes it. So,
dude,
yeah,
Bond wasn't even the fastest Longhorn.
Yeah,
like, he wasn't.
Was he even the second fastest? Jadon Blue might have outran him too.
I mean, like, it was close. I think it was close between those two. Still, they might have run the same number. Actually, now I think about it, did they both run 4.39?
Fourth, yeah, something like that.
Okay. All right. Next one. One player whose combine performance kind of scared you off of them a little bit.
Okay, hold on. Give me a second. You got one, Maddie?
Yeah, Teteroa McMillan. Don't be a fraud. Go do some testing. Don't tell me you're not going to run at the pro day either, buddy. We'll have to see the 4.65 and just move on. No, I mean, like, I don't like it when players don't run because they're going to be slow. And I know it worked for Drake London, but he was at least battling through like a real injury for a little bit of it.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just don't like it when guys that are healthy decide not to run. But in terms of just straight up seeing a performance that I thought was bad, I don't know if anybody stuck out to me as not having a great performance, running a little bit slower than I like. Malachi Starks, all of his times were worse than what I thought they were, but then they did the drills. And now, like we talked about it earlier in the week, the combine tracks all the miles per hour and he's flying through all the drills and looks great on them. So like, I don't really care about the testing numbers at that point in time.
Yeah. Or from a measurement perspective, that kind of,
I think
you guys want to go there.
A lot of the tackles hurt themselves just because like they're not going to meet the thresholds for arm length. So and by tackles, I mean, I guess interior offensive linemen, because a lot of those guys are going to wind up getting kicked inside. And even some of the guys with long arms, like Jonas Savayanea, he's probably a guard more than he's a tackle anyway. So it's like, that's great. The linebackers are all small. A lot of them are small. There's not a ton of big bodied linebackers in this class. There's a lot of guys that are sitting in the low 220s at the NFL Combine, and that's not something you'd like to see. You'd like to see them up at least in the high 220s, right? You'd like to see them running in the high 220s. None of them, so there's some good athletes in this class, but none of them just tested out of their mind. Jalen Walker didn't really do much, and that was a little bit of a red flag. And Jihad Campbell helped himself this week. Carson Schweschinger didn't test. This is another guy he didn't do a ton of testing, but he's huge. He's a lot bigger than I thought he was going to be. He's like sitting 243 pounds. he could sneak into the back end of round 1. I wouldn't be stunned. Like if the Chiefs don't bring Bolton back, like you told me they'd take Carson Schweschinger at pick 31.
I was just saying you taking him in round 1 because I think you're having to take him in round 1. So
take him in round 1. But yeah.
It's a great point on the linebackers because I think we are starting to see a little bit of a shift back with how much offenses were running the ball last year. Like, you need some big body linebackers. All these, smaller, quicker linebackers, they're going to start, it ebbs and flows. It goes in cycles. You get those smaller linebackers, just teams are throwing the ball over, and then teams start realizing, hey, there are all these small bodies, on the second level. Let's start pounding the ball, and we're starting to see that kind of transition back. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how that all evolves over the next couple of years. All right, next one. What do you think after watching all these workouts and the way things have unfolded? I know we still have, a ways to go in the process, but after this combine, what's your ideal, again, within reason, ideal first round fit for Kansas City?
I know one of yours, Maddie.
I mean, mine is just at this point, I think we've kind of adjusted here a little bit. Just get yourself in a position to take the best player that's available. And this is very cliche, but whoever ends up falling down the board a little bit, because there's always going to be somebody, you got to take that guy. Don't be afraid to take a safety because he fell. This is my Malachi Starks point again. He's sitting there at pick 31 because the testing's poor and everybody wants to take the more freaky athletic safety. Don't let Brian Branch get away a second time because you want to take somebody else, right? Just don't do it. Just take the best player that's available on the board. I don't know if I care the position that they are anymore. So yeah, I just get yourself in that position. So we'll say Malachi Starks for now, and I don't even know if his draft stock's that low. I could just see a pathway when you look at his testing. It compares to Brian Branch, Jesse Bates. I'm naming second round safeties right now. Just don't let that guy get away because look at how those dudes perform.
And I think if you look at this, if the Chiefs are able to put themselves in a decent enough position where they could roll out a team week 1, and which is their preference, they want to be able to roll out a team week 1 before the draft, essentially. And so it's hey, we feel comfortable with who we have here. We know we can get better here, but this is who we have. We feel good about it. You could make it. There's that. That sets you up a little bit for best player available, but you've also got to think about how many positions this team could need in 2026 too. You're talking, running back. You could always need a receiver, tight end, tackle. Probably not an interior offensive line. That's the one spot it's pretty secure. But edge, D tackle, linebacker, cornerback, safety, being in position to take best player available may not be overwhelmingly, hopefully they don't have a huge hole, but 2026 is coming around the corner and they're going to need a lot of players in that season. So if it's, Jihad Campbell, for some reason, I don't think he's going to be there, but a linebacker gets devalued like Jihad Campbell. If it's Starks, if it's a running back, if it's Carson Schweschinger, a linebacker, if it's Josh Connerly or Donovan Jackson, I could hear any argument. One of the defensive tackles, like Kenneth Grant, isn't, I don't think that's going to be the case, but his stock's up and down. Edge, tell me, there's so many players you could tell me that they took Nick Scourton, the edge out of Texas A&M. Those are all whoever in that pool of players is available. If the Chiefs are in a good position, I'm thrilled with. And there's several positions where you feel a best player available will be available to them at 31.
Yeah, as we talked about when we were kind of going through the roster a few weeks ago, they may not necessarily be the biggest, most glaring need, but there are a lot of needs on this team. So there are going to be opportunities for the BPA approach. All right, last one for you guys. Obviously, we didn't see Shador and Cam Ward, but there were some intriguing quarterback performances, throwing sessions. Which quarterback stood out to you the most from what you saw? Which one was the most impressive to you?
Ooh, okay. This is interesting. Tyler Shuck, I actually thought threw the ball pretty well. I think a lot of people tuned out for the the more the wide receivers that people wanted to see were in the first group. So a lot of people didn't see the second quarterback's throw. And like, I'm not going to lie, I also tuned out. I had to watch later on the broadcast to see what it looked like because there just wasn't as many exciting receivers then. And I'm not trying to watch, these quarterbacks throw, but when I did and saw Tyler Shuck, I thought he threw the ball well. He seemed like he had a nice, like fun personality kind of that could lead a team. He's also like 29 years old, like my age. So that, yeah, he should be able to command a bunch 25. Of college age kids. He should be able to command a bunch of college age kids around him. But no, I thought he probably threw the ball about as good as anybody else did there.
Kyle McCord did some good things in his as well. I think that's a good situation for him. Like I'm not dubious of Kyle McCord. It's just Kyle McCord had a lot of success in a dome. When they took him out of he took him out of the elements. He took him out of the elements in Ohio, and then goes to Syracuse and lights it up in the dome and did it again. I think he had a good performance as well. I think he threw the ball and did some good things there. So,
and shout out Jalen Milroe. He was terrible at the Senior Bowl. But he came out and said hey, I was trying to work on stuff because that's what I have to do. I thought he looked better throwing the football. I don't say he threw, but he just looked a little bit better, right? I think he clearly had been working on a little bit of stuff. So shout out to him. I don't know if it was the best, but he clearly is trying to get better, and that's kind of what matters, I suppose.
Yeah, there are a few rough misses, misses in there. At least his hands grew half an inch too. That helps.
Yeah, he fixed his feet, and then his hands grew. What else can you ask for?
Yeah, but I'm with you. I thought Tyler Shuck really, really stood out to me from that. I was really impressed with him. And yeah, I mean, everybody got on, Bo Nix for being 24. What's 20? That worked out for him. What's 25?
What's 37?
It's not like he's Brandon Whedon or Chris Winkie or something.
I was about to say, what's 29, Hamilton?
Yeah.
29 in a long
He's 42 at the end of his rookie deal. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is 42.
You guys.
The Kurt Warner path.
Yeah, they're so judgmental, but yeah, whatever. All right, that's it for my burning questions for this week.
I loved Hamilton's burning questions. It's great. It's engaging. I've had people in my DMs be like, "Yo, really like Hammy's burning questions. You should bring it back." And so we'll do that.
Let's keep it rolling. Give the people what they want.
Before we get out of here, let's talk through some free agent fits. We haven't spent a ton of time talking about free agency yet on this show, and
it's Monday.
Well, legal tampering period, I believe, begins on Monday. So this is our last little chance to talk about some of the free agent fits that might fit the Chiefs. And again, I think there's probably part of that is it is a very, like we've talked, it's very open-ended offseason, and a lot of the decisions lie with internally who they like and what they try to keep and who they try to keep. And it feels like the big decisions really revolve around who stays more than who they're bringing in. But there's still some potential value, and there's still some potential players out in free agency that might make sense for the Chiefs, big, small, medium, size moves. So Hamilton, why don't you give me a player that you're paying attention to?
Yeah, so I know this is a loaded D tackle draft, but currently the Chiefs have one defensive tackle on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
They need to add depth there. And I know it's not maybe the most exciting thing, but that's what free agency, I feel like, is going to be for these Chiefs. It's about adding some depth, some key pieces where they need it. And it's a pretty good free agent D tackle class too. From what we're hearing about Tershawn Wharton, it sounds like they're gonna be priced out of him most likely with the way the buzz is going there after he had such a phenomenal year last year. But there are going to be options there. Guys like Poona Ford, guys like Javon Hargrave. I know he's coming off an injury, but he's 32. I feel like he's probably still got something left in the tank. Levi Onwuzurike, again, he's coming off an injury, but we've seen a lot of talent there from him. Jaron Reed. So there's guys there that I could see any one of those guys slotting in, or maybe even a couple of them, and really adding some much needed depth to the interior of this defensive line.
Yeah, it is a really good D tackle, free agency class and draft class. And the interesting part about the free agency is it's like a lot of three techs. It's a lot of like pass rushers. So it'll be interesting to see like where Tershawn Wharton falls in that. Cause like other years I could see him definitely getting paid a lot, but like now you start to go through it. Like he's like the 6th or 7th best pass rushing defensive tackle. It's a free agent. Like that gets a little dicier. So we'll see if I'm the Chiefs, so like give me a nose tackle that doesn't automatically have to come off the field every 2nd and 7. That would be really nice. They haven't had one. They tried to do the Jared Reed thing for 1 year and it was up and down. And I think he kind of was like, I'm going to go somewhere else where I can maybe be used how I more want to. And I do think at the time they were battling some assignment sound issues amongst the defensive tackle room. And that's gotten a little better now. But like, you talked about it. Like, I mean, PJ Hill's a free agent. He's not the best pass rusher, but he can play on all 3 downs if you need him to.
And he's so reliable. He doesn't,
Tier Tart, like I know there's some like off-field like motivation questions there, but like he went to the Chargers. He played well for them last year. He doesn't have to come off the field every 2nd and 7. You mentioned Puna Ford, Sebastian Joseph Day, even like he's more run stuffer, but he's not Mike Pennell as a pass rusher. I love Mike Pennell, but he's not Mike Pennell as a pass rusher. He gives you a little something. So just getting a complete D tackle to play next to Chris Jones, I do think would be a pretty big deal.
Yeah, even when I was going through an off-season exercise that I wrote about on the KCSN Substack that you can see on there right now. It posted Wednesday morning. I was just kind of looking through the roster and trying to make some moves. And I think defensive tackle wound up being like the most glaring need in the very obvious place that this team, was going to need some help with, if you're trying to roll out a team before the draft, like that's the one that was probably, I don't want to say the most challenging, but like very glaring. Obviously, you need to get somebody into that room and you need to get somebody outside of your walls into that room. You're probably not bringing, I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to afford Tershawn Wharton when it's all said and done. You bring back Pennell, you bring back, Derek Nottie, but you need somebody else that has some interior rush juice. Like, I think that one makes sense. It would be off brand of me to not talk about some of these release players to see if the Chiefs might take some of these bargain barrel players and try to sign them while not affecting the compensatory formula. Because depending on what happens with Justin Reed, Tershawn Wharton, and Nick Bolton, the Chiefs could receive 3 compensatory picks for those guys if they really wanted to. I don't know how many outside free agents they're really going to be signing anyway. But, hey, look, Kendall Fuller. If you wanted to add some depth to the cornerback room and add a veteran to the cornerback room, there's no strings attached when it comes to the compensatory formula there. Sheldon Rankins, Draymond Jones, Roy Robertson Harris, some defensive tackles that you guys haven't talked about that could potentially add some,
There's so many good. It's unbelievable.
There's a lot. Yeah.
They all got released. Got released. Tyler Lockett just got released at the receiver spot. Like, some of these players are compensatory form. Like, they're not going to count against the compensatory formula. And like, you can ask Mac. I've slowed down on some of that over the course. I love a good compensatory pick. I'm not beholden to the compensatory pick like the Baltimore Ravens are. But there are some bargain barrel players that could potentially be some value for the Chiefs there. If they want depth at different positions, they want to try to add some veteran bodies just to kind of, give them some options. Like, those are just some players that are in the bargain barrel right now that you aren't losing draft picks over.
Yeah, and those guys are always good to search through and find and see what they are. Speaking of the bargain bin, I got some names. I feel pretty confident that the Chiefs will try to sign one of these guys. It's the most Brett Veachy thing to do. Diami Brown,
yes,
Tylan Wallace, Javonte Williams.
Yes.
Khalil Herbert kind of counts, but not really. Hold on, I got one more. Azeez Ojulari, Chauncey Golston.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably about the end. The key thing here, though, is guys coming off their rookie deal that maybe were a little bit lackluster for what the teams thought that drafted them. Brett Veach loves those guys. If he liked any of those guys in the draft 4 years ago, he is on the phone with them. He loves guys like that. Specifically, like probably more on like the offensive side, I think is where they would look for that this year. But you find anybody coming off their rookie deal that maybe didn't put out a ton of production, but maybe gave you a game or two of a flash over that stretch. Like, that is the type of guy the Chiefs usually do like to take a swing on. I don't say that in full on tongue in cheek as a negative, but like some of those guys would kind of fit too with what the Chiefs do. And it's just like, it's how they like to operate in free agency. So I think I always like when free agency starts, that's kind of where my mind goes is, okay, what positions do the Chiefs kind of have a need at? And then are there any top 100 picks that were maybe a little disappointing for their team over their first 4 years? Because like the Chiefs like to collect those guys.
Yeah, and Aziz, I don't know about the fit for Aziz, but he's somebody I look at that like there's so much that like when the issue's been health. He hasn't been able to stay on the field, but when he's out there, like he's productive. He gets pressures, he gets sacks, like he gets to the quarterback. He's somebody that I think is going to have a good second act somewhere.
So if you're looking at some like potentially bigger moves that they could potentially make, I always like if you want to go to over the cap and just sort their free agent list by age and start with the youngest, like that's a good place to start with Brett Veach, because he typically does. Their formula seems to be paying younger guys and signing guys to long-term deals that are on the younger side. Javon Holland,
Trey Lance.
Yeah, you're sorting right now. I see you. You're on the first unrestricted free agent on over the cap right now.
Oh, I also forgot Daryl Taylor. Daryl Taylor screams Chiefs to me too.
Daryl Taylor makes some sense, but Javon Holland. If the Chiefs aren't going to bring Justin Reed back, like maybe they swing for a Javon Holland, and he's 25 years old this upcoming season, and like that's a guy that you can sign to a 4-year deal, and then he's moving on before he turns the age of 30.
Yeah.
So, that's
at that point just pay
move.
Justin Reed.
That's what I'm. Yeah, he's going to be pricey.
He's going to be more expensive than Justin Reed. So at that point, just pay Justin Reed. Not that he's not better. It's just
I just wonder two things. If he is better, then they get better. But also, if the market for safety isn't crazy, if Justin Reed's getting 13 and Javon Holland's only getting 15, something like that, like probably just pay the better player and the younger player, the one that's not going into their 30s for the remainder of their contract. So
Andre Cisco, cheaper, younger guy coming off that rookie deal. Now, he wasn't like disappointing for Jacksonville. He was fine. But Julian Blackman, he's like, I think 27, so he's not as young, but again, still like a safety. It's a little bit younger. There's the safety class is also pretty decent actually in terms of like free agents that are available. So that might help the Justin Reed being able to come back to Kansas City, which I think we would all hope for if it was like the correct price. But yeah, no, I'm with you. Like sort of through young guys. I still don't think they're going to spend big, even with like getting some extra money, but like they could. And I would love Javon Holland. I think he would make a lot of sense. That's a big payday.
Tucker D. Franklin just said that the Chargers have released Joey Bosa. Announced today. Joey Bosa, the most important piece of all this, will not count against the compensatory formula.
Slot him into my little chart here.
25 million cap space. That saves the Chargers.
Yeah. Maddie Lane, would you sign Joey Bosa to a 1-year deal?
How much money am I paying him?
I don't know.
Okay. How has he ever played a full season?
Let's look at
Great question.
I don't think Joey Bosa likes the Chiefs. I know Joey Bosa hates Jawan Taylor.
So you can go up against them. Joey Bosa played 14 games last year. He's played 9
3 seasons of all 16.
Yeah, and
none since 2021.
Yep.
I mean, like, it would have the price would have to be pretty substantial. Like, it'd have to be pretty good. I thought he played well last year, like when the Chiefs were playing the Chargers and stuff. Like, I thought he played pretty well last year as I was getting ready for those games. But I don't know. I wouldn't trip over myself to get to Joey Bosa. Young Bosa, Nick Bosa, sure, but never. Okay, I just want to say he's better. Chill,
Hamilton. Would you pay Joey Bosa?
Honestly, I probably wouldn't at this point. Yeah, I just there's been a decline as we talked about. He hasn't really been able to stay on the field. He's probably the name value and all of that. He's probably going to command more than I think he's probably worth. I could be wrong, but based on what I've seen in the last couple of years, like he's fine. He's still productive when he's out there, but again, that's a huge question that you always have to worry about. And is it worth, is the upside worth the potential lack of availability? And to me, it probably isn't for what you're going to have to pay for him.
Yeah. And like, I mean, I feel like the Chiefs do try to prioritize availability in a lot of the time. I know that they've gotten some value out of a Charles Omenihu move, but that was a move made in conjunction with a lot of other moves where they were in a good position until he was back on the field for them to be able to, and they got him for an extra year out of, with some of that too. So I don't know. We'll see. I could see them, if they can find the right value for a veteran defensive end. Like, I wouldn't be stunned to see them do something like that for somebody. Don't know if it's going to be Bosa, but I do think that they could benefit from some more juice off the edge, and we'll see. If they
listen, I'm just naming guys that struggled during their rookie contract. The Chiefs might like.
If the Chiefs like them, there's Chase Young.
Okay, we're a couple contracts deep in the Chase Young.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Casey
Joe Tryon.
Thank you so much for listening, watching, supporting. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later. Dayo Odeyingbo.
Expensive.
Probably.